Welcome to another tutorial for UlnoIoT, and today we will have our first look at NodeRED and use NodeRED to network our devices in the UlnoIoT Internet of Things system. So we assume you have your two test devices. One has a button connected to it and one uses the onboard LED to signal something, and we assume that you have watched the Auto Start tutorial and have configured these devices to come up in the one as the button and one as the LED. And so if you actually look at MQTT all in UlnoIoT, you should now see a lot of activity, and if I press the button, you should see that commands are sent out to MQTT. So why MQTT? Yeah, MQTT, as I mentioned in a tutorial before, is kind of the Internet of Things communication language, or the Internet of Things communication protocol. And there is a system which speaks MQTT very well, and this is NodeRED. So let's open the browser, and in the browser, let's assume you're connected to your device. Go to the address 192.168.12.1 to the port. So for this you need a colon 1880. And then you should see something like this. If not, you might have to create a new flow here. So for this, you would actually go to this little menu up here. You would go to flow and add a new flow here. So if there's garbage in here, you can now actually remove the other flow. So let's kind of say there's some kind of nodes already here and you don't want to use these. Then you want to now say, okay, let's in the flows delete the flow number 1. And now we have this one flow. We can rename this flow. Go here and say rename, and let's have it just for testing purposes flow 1, and make sure you don't disable this here. So done. So now we have an empty page and we can work with this. And I talked already about MQTT, and so we need an MQTT input node. So if you hover about this, you see a little explanations, and here is an MQTT input node. So let's just take this MQTT input node and let's take the debug output node. And so basically, we want to do the same thing we just did in the command line and want to actually show just everything we receive on MQTT on the debug output. However, we need to configure the node now. So let's just double click the MQTT node. And not everybody might have a server in here. So let's make sure we create a new server, and the server is on localhost because NodeRED runs also on the Raspberry Pi. This should be the default port 1883, and by default there's nothing else you have to configure here. So let's save this and make sure this one is selected here. And we have to subscribe to a topic, and in the beginning we will just subscribe to everything which is the pound sign. So let's do that. And then we have to deploy this. And then we should see messages in debug. And you see in debug, we see now the same messages we saw before in the console. And if I press now the button, you should see an instant feedback down here. See? You see on and off messages coming here. So let's now do the Hello World example. So we have the MQTT input node, and then we need to send something to MQTT. So we also need an MQTT output node. So this is this, and we should see again what is the topic we actually need. The output node is where we want to send something to an LED, and this is on node1.blue. And if you remember from one tutorial before, if you want to set something, there's some convention that it's a slightly different topic, so we have to actually do the node1.blue set a topic here. Okay, so node1.blue set is the topic here. And let's now take what we get here to there. However, we don't want to subscribe to hash. We want to get the stuff from the button. And This is on node 2 and comes in the topic B1. So now we should both still see the B1 debug messages, but also influence the LED directly. So let's deploy this. You should see here the LED. And if I now press the button here, then the LED is on, and if I release the button, the LED is off. And you see the debug messages at the same time. So that is cool. And in the next step, we actually don't want that we press the button that the LED really reflects the status if the button is pressed or not, but we want to use the button to toggle the state. So imagine in a house, this would be, the LED would be your light, and you want to use a toggle button to switch the light. So for this, we need a different function in NodeRED, and this is called function, and this actually allows us to program something. So we have to remove this here and connect this as an input to the function, and then send this out here. And also we'll make sure that I now get some output in our debug node from there. And if I go here, I have here a function. And I will call this toggle. So, and I can actually take a look at what I get as an input if I observe what is coming in message payload. And I use the 3 equal signs to not care about types in JavaScript. And now we see what comes as a payload in the message, and we want to only react if we get an on. So if we have an on, we want to actually, the last time we switched something on, we want to switch it off, and if the last time we switched it off, we want to switch it on. So we need a local variable, and we can have this in a local, let's say, toggle state. And we want to say if the toggle state is actually already on, then we switch it off. And if in the other case, we switch the toggle state on. So in this context is basically the defining a local variable for this special function node. So, but sometimes we might again send off, and so then we want to actually make sure that what we send back is not off, but the last state, because we want to ignore off. So we say actually that the payload needs to be the new toggle state we just defined, and that takes care of it. So then we say done, and we say deploy, and now we can actually take a look, and if we click, the light goes on, and we click, the light goes off. But if we keep it pressed, you will see after 5 seconds the light still goes off. That's because of the status report. So we're getting still a little bit too many messages, and to take care of that, we need to make sure that the status messages are ignored, and there is a node in NodeRED which is called RBE. It's report by exception. So the only thing what we have to do is we have to remove this connector here and pipe this one through this. And then only if something changes we actually get a reaction. So that's what we need. Let's deploy this and check it out. Now the light is off and the light is on, off, on, and even if I now press for a long time, the state doesn't change. Only if I trigger it directly. And this is the first easy NodeRED program we have. There are tons of other functions, but this should be enough for today. And if you have managed this, congratulations, and more systems in Internet of Things are to come.